Welcome back, my friends, and happy Tuesday. I wouldn't believe anyone actually says this, happy Tuesday, but I do. Let's look at the news from Ukraine, and we do have big ones. If we go to the Kherson front, Ukrainians have actually transported their first armored vehicles across Dnipro river. This actually caused significant panic among Russian Telegram channels and military bloggers. Here you can see it being reported, and it's a Russian drone filming a Ukrainian armored vehicle crossing the Dnipro river. Now, Ukrainians have not yet built any pontoon bridges, and these are only a few single armored vehicles, but the fact that they are transporting them over means that these incursions over the Dnipro and the bridgeheads are not temporary, but they're there to stay, and Ukraine is looking into possibilities to expand them and exploit the Russian weakness of this front. Now, this crossing happened near the settlement of Krynki, which is the newest liberated settlement by Ukrainian forces across the Dnipro. And on this footage you can actually see Ukrainian forces in Krynki having pushed out Russian positions. We have discussed it already that Russians replaced the commander of this front, and the new commander is General Teplinsky. Now, the Russian command structure knows that this is the weakest front across all occupied Ukraine, and Ukraine also knows this. In the near future, we might see pontoon bridges over the Dnipro carrying more heavy armor across. Now, my friends, we'll jump to Israel for a moment. There is an insane story that I feel like I have to report. An American-born police officer in Israel was stabbed by a Palestinian child. You heard it correctly, stabbed by a child. Now, when and how does this happen? But it did. It happened in Old Town of Jerusalem. On this footage, you can see the last video of her waving to the camera, smiling and talking to her friend, sending love to her family in America. Elisheva Rosa Ida Lubin, a 20-year-old member of the Israeli border police, tragically lost her life in a stabbing incident in Jerusalem, which sent shockwaves to her hometown in Atlanta. In Israel, she resided in Kibbutz Sa'ad, a religious community in the Negev, and her family is from Dunwoody, Atlanta. Now, if you are from around that area, let me know in the comments. Elisheva was quite active on Instagram, and in this video we can see her exchanging warm greetings with her cousin Tovi Helpern, who also joined her to Israel from America. The Palestinian who stabbed her was only 16 years old and was reportedly shot to death by the border police after the incident happened. Also, another Israeli officer was moderately wounded in this incident. Since the war is going on in Gaza, a lot of this stuff is happening, and to balance everything out, I now report an incident from the other side. On this footage, you can see how Israeli forces have just shot a Palestinian woman at the Galandia checkpoint on the Jerusalem Ramallah road. These things do happen, and they are incredibly sad. Now, these poor civilians are caught in the crossfire. But my friends, now we go where? To the African continent, to Sudan, because I kid you not, Ukrainian forces are present there fighting Wagnerites. And this is not just me talking, we have a drone footage of Ukrainian special forces doing a night raid operation to eliminate a Wagnerite headquarters. Now, this entire thing was filmed by a night vision drone above, so it does look like Hollywood or a Call of Duty mission. Here you can see the Ukrainian drone filming and being eyes on the sky for Ukrainian special forces. It is happening during the night. And the fact that Ukrainian special forces are present in Sudan and they're able to pull off operations like this means that they have an insane logistical ally in the region. Now, we cannot actually name who this ally is, but you can be sure Ukraine alone cannot send their special forces into Sudan and pull them out again. It needs a logistical chain, a communication chain, and powerful allies in the region. Especially if you know that Ukraine's special forces were able to put the drone up above, I'm sure they would have a quick response force ready if anything goes south. Now, the latter part of this video I cannot show because it's a lot of explosions. This was a successful elimination of Wagner headquarters. But the fact that Ukrainian special forces, which are part of Ukrainian intelligence SBU, are able to do this on African continent shows the scale of Ukrainian alliances in the world. This is incredible. Now I want to show you a photo of the division of African countries. With red, these are the countries that have been known and confirmed countries with Russian interventions. This symbol is recent coup d'etats, and we of course know Niger was one, Mali was another one. All these coups happened in the last 10 years. And of course, PMC Wagner presence is in 5 countries, but actually it's more. And then there's the Blue ECOWAS Alliance. As you can see, Russia is deep in Africa, intertwined with local politics. So is China. So if this new Cold War is already going, which I say it is, we have the bloc of Russia and China rooting themselves in African internal politics and military alliances. Now we jump again for a moment into Israel, where IDF forces have continued their mission into Gaza. They have actually surrounded the Gaza city and have taken control of another Hamas checkpoint. Now in these Hamas checkpoints and strong points, a lot of weaponry is found, and it's not only small arms and ammunition, it is also anti-tank guided munitions, drones, artillery shells, droppable munitions, grenades, everything you can imagine. They come from Iran and also Russia. Let's talk about the numbers for a moment for this entire operation in Gaza. Confirmed, the KIA number is about 10,000, and it could be higher because this is only confirmed right now. It doesn't include the latest attacks. In Israel, in the country, from October 7th, the confirmed KIA toll is about 1,400. Around 70% of Gaza's 2.3 million residents have fled their homes since the start of the hostilities from October 7th. The IDF reported that from the start of the ground invasion into Gaza, about 30 Israeli troops have been KIA. Hamas and other Iranian-backed militant groups have continued firing rockets into Israeli territory daily ever since October the 7th. And since Israel has a very strong ally in the form of the United States has now reacted. CENTCOM from the United States reported the arrival of an Ohio-class nuclear submarine in the Middle East region. This represents a clear deterrence towards Iran. In general, the current established environment should not support a scenario in which Iran wants to gradually escalate a war initiated by Hamas in the Middle East to the point of a large military intervention. Well, Iran is very much aware of United States military power and what it would bring with it if provoked. Surely, if United States would to be provoked, the outcome for Iran would be disastrous. United States right now has behaved in a way not to provoke Iran in any way. The United States officials are stating that they are there on a defensive purpose towards Israel, not offensive purpose towards Iran. If this changes, it's very bad news for Iran. Iranian leaders know this, and they're playing on a thin balance not to cross that line, because there are a lot of juicy targets in Iran that the United States could easily bombard if they would feel provoked enough. Iran knows this, and they're playing the balance. Now, the Ohio-class nuclear submarine USS Florida is armed with 154 Tomahawk missiles. These 154 missiles alone could wreak havoc on Iranian militant groups and Iran itself. Since the nuclear submarine is now very close to Iran as a country, Iranian soil, Iranian leaders are careful to take any further decisions or escalate this conflict further. These Tomahawks are aimed and ready to be launched. With the coming of winter, Russia and Ukraine both have plans to disrupt the other side's logistics and attack other side's electrical and water infrastructure. Of course, Ukraine has the experience of winter of 2022, where Russia decimated about 50% of entire Ukrainian electrical production. Now Ukraine can hit back because their drone conglomerate, military production conglomerate, Ukroboronprom, has reported that they have started a serial production of their newest drone with a range of 1,000 kilometers. Now, I remember reporting about the development of that drone in the winter of 2022 when it was only making test flights. Now it is in serial production, meaning if Russians attack Ukrainian electrical infrastructure, Ukraine can answer in the same way, because there are a lot of big Russian cities in the reach of 1,000 kilometers from Ukrainian soil. soil. So Russia has a lot to lose by bombarding Ukrainian civilians now. This 1,000 kilometers also includes the Russian capital, Moscow. Let's not forget that. Starting mass production of any kind of drone is mostly about logistics, and on this video you can see Ukrainians mass producing these drones. These are mostly these small 3D printed drones, but you can already see it requires very specific metal parts, very specific munitions, rotors, and they have to be acquired in big quantities. Ukrainians have dispersed the production across the country, so the production facilities could not be bombarded. They're not bunched together like they used to be before the war. These locations, of course, are held in secret, but you can see these munitions and the covers of them are all 3D printed. Ukrainian military intelligence reported that according to their data, Russia has now managed to stockpile 870 different ballistic and cruise missiles that could be used to attack the entire territory of Ukraine and the civilian electrical and water infrastructure, much like before the winter of 2022. Talking about the winter of 2022, about every 2 weeks Russia made a huge attack with missiles and drones. We're talking close to 100 missiles every 2 weeks to Ukrainian cities. And Ukraine reported back then that Russia has about 1,000 missiles for this winter. Well, the number is similar now, so what we can expect coming from Ukraine and Russia in December is a huge exchange of drones and missiles across border to electrical and water infrastructure. Now, my friends, we jump into the United States with news, and this, I gotta say, I get Florida man vibes when I read these news, but I wanna share it with you. Indiana woman allegedly crashes on purpose into what she thought was a Jewish school. In the incident, an Indiana woman named Ruba Almakeh, aged 34, was arrested after allegedly crashing her car into what she believed was a Jewish school. However, it was later revealed that the Israelite School of Universal and Practical Knowledge, the target of her actions, is not a pro-Jewish organization, but an extremist group that is anti-Israel. Thankfully, no one was injured in the incident. She admitted upon her arrest that she had been watching the news, felt overwhelmed, and made reference to the people in Palestine. This is why I include humor on my channel. Watching the news, always negative, dramatic, sad, claiming your empathetic energy. This is why people get war fatigue, they get tired, they switch it off, they get apathetic. This is why we need humor and to make it light. I know it seems wrong for some people, but this is the only way to cover these horrible events long term and not to get you tired and not to get me tired. You need humor and I need humor. It's a coping mechanism. We all need it. This woman got overwhelmed by the news. She was consuming it too much. It was too damn dark, couldn't handle it, drove her car into what she thought was a pro-Jewish school. The Western media, for some reason, is copying Russian propaganda narratives, like the West is war fatigued and don't want to support anymore, and the Western media is picking up on this. Now, I don't know why. What's the goal of the Western media? Is it clicks? Is it views? Or is it money from any Russian oligarch? But I'm here to report the truth to you. Ursula von der Leyen, the European Commission president, held a speech in Brussels yesterday that was significantly more strategic in a tone than usual regarding objectives towards Ukraine. Given that the audience consisted of representatives of the European Union in other countries, the speech can be considered a political guidance for them. The president of the European Commission quite conventionally mentioned that the goal for the Ukraine is, and this is very important, is a lasting and just peace. Not peace in Ukraine, that's not the goal. The goal is a long-term peace and just peace. But she also provided much more precise content to this formulation, because usually these European leaders, they say, oh, peace in Ukraine. What does it mean? It doesn't mean end the fighting and Russian forces stay in Ukraine. It means something completely different. She stated that it must be a real peace that ends the war, not a ceasefire that would actually mean a frozen conflict, which is what actually Russia wants. Long-term peace means that Ukraine receives long-term security guarantees. This means Ukrainian accession into NATO and the European Union, and I fully stand behind this. Furthermore, von der Leyen noted that the Ukrainian military must be properly built up And this includes, among other things, increasing the capacity of the European defense industry. Very important. European countries are sleeping. We have an aggressive neighbor who wants our land. That's the most simple truth of it. Russians want our land. They want to occupy us. Simple as that. Now, to do against it, European Union countries need to wake up and wake up their military production. They have the capacity and potential, but they have not chosen it yet because they're lazy or war fatigued. And finally, the President of the European Commission believes that the best guarantee of stability and success for Ukraine is full membership into the European Union. I like this speech, I stand by it, and I do believe we need Ukraine in NATO and in the EU, and that is the only way to stand up to Russia. And now, my friends, we again jump back to the United States of America. And if you're watching there, you might be surprised. Why do I jump into your country with news? Well, I do. Maybe you're from the area also. There are activists in Tacoma, Washington, holding out on the waters of the docks to make sure a weapons shipment to Israel does not make it out of the dock. Now, these guys are there with just boats trying to stop these weapon shipments into Israel. Now again, if you're from the area, please let me know in the comments. It would be so cool to talk to somebody physically present there to get all angles of this information. My friends, recently I visited the residence of the United States Ambassador to Estonia, George Kent. Now, he is a wonderful speaker. He has charisma and he can vocalize very well, and I really enjoyed the visit. Here's the photo of it, and photos like this and events like this in my life, I always show them in my Instagram. So go and follow me, link is in the description below. I might be coming to the US, who knows, and then I'll be posting everything in my Instagram. But now, my friends, I want to thank the Patreons, the people who really are the foundation of this channel. I will butcher 5 new names, and if you hear your name, this means you are tier 10 or above and have made a difference. Jim Williams, Tommi Notkiniemi. What the hell, you're Finnish, you gotta be Finnish. Suomen mainitu perkele. Kilaknikt, and Kilaknikt became a big patron, bigger than everybody else, thank you. Felix Trekat, Dominic Marschall. Thank you to these patrons, and if you like my channel, the Patreon link is in the description below. Until my next update, my friends, which will be tomorrow, so be back. Slava Ukraini, and bye bye.